It is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Ort Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. It is good to be back on the air, the first show for the year 2020, the first show as far as For the Record is concerned for the new decade. I hope and I trust that everyone had an enjoyable holiday. Those of you who were fortunate to welcome in the new year, those of you who have made New Year's resolutions as well, we hope and trust that you can keep those. There are some who don't make New Year resolutions simply because they still want to fulfill those resolutions that they made before. And for some, it's an ongoing process as well. But again, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the very busy roads of the Cayman Islands, and I anticipate that they will be very busy again this morning. For those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, we of course urge you to be extremely cautious, whether you're a cyclist, whether you're a pedestrian operating any type of vehicle on the roads of the Cayman Islands. We again urge you to be extremely cautious. Please ensure that you observe the rules of the road, and always remember the life you save may be your own. Again, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse those busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Ort Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. During those periods, our phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls, 9 times out of 10. And in this decade again, we hope and trust, it will be that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Of course, if you don't like to talk on the telephone, then email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record at CANDW.KY. WhatsApp us on 925-3261, where you can send us a text message or leave us a voice note. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. First, I want to extend sincere condolences to all of those families who have lost loved ones during the past few weeks. Some of you would have lost them before the holidays, during the holidays, and after the holidays. And we know that during those periods, very challenging times for you, made it virtually impossible for you to enjoy the holiday season as well. And I've been asked to extend special condolences to certain families, and I'm doing this simply because I have been asked to do so, and while others may be excluded from that, it is not deliberate, because I'm simply honoring a request, starting with Mrs. Linda McLean and her brother Ernest. We call him Stubby, on the passing of their mother. I think Ernest will be returning to his home in the U.S. sometime this week as well. Also, the Thompson family, on the loss of Miss Debbie Thompson, the McCoy family, and the loss of Mr. Rupert McCoy as well. And I should also note that the Elections Office have issued a notice that they will be closed during a period tomorrow as a result of the funeral service that will be held for Mr. Rupert McCoy as well. So sincere condolences to all of those families who have lost loved ones. We hope and we trust that your faith will help to carry you through these very challenging times as well. Now, today is normally the day that we have reserved for government. As you know, I'll remind you, Mondays is government. Wednesdays is reserved for the independent members of the Legislative Assembly. I should basically say reserved for MLA Mr. Ezard Miller. He's the one independent member who comes on to the show, and sometimes it's difficult to determine whether or not others are independent or otherwise. But we know what Mr. Miller's position is in relation to that. And of course, on Fridays, the show is reserved for the official opposition. Now, we know that in the latter part of 2019, politicians were extremely busy. Last-minute meetings in our Legislative Assembly and everything else. So we definitely understood their absence on the show. We hope and we trust that in 2020, this year, that we will see and we will hear more from our politicians on our talk shows. We need to hear more from them. People lament the fact that there are not as many district meetings as used to be. Of course, there's more reliance now on social media and everything else. But what I will say for this show, and I say this personally as a host of the show, that if there is a reluctance, and we see the reluctance for your representatives to come on this show, then I will push to change the format of the show so that we can bring you a quality show and not create expectations for you, and those expectations then are not those expectations then are not met. So I'm hoping and trusting that those who are in charge of the whole process of ensuring that their representatives come on the show will take that as a serious note. Don't wait till 2021 when it is election year and everyone wants to come on and get some free time on the radio and the talk show as well. There are many, many options that we have on For the Record in terms of what we provide for you from a programming standpoint. And those options are available. And certainly, personally, I would not hesitate to employ those options if they are necessary. I can't speak for management, but I can speak for OC. I can speak for OC. So this morning, it is my pleasure, and I think it is timely and most fitting that on the first show for 2020 to have in the studio with me none other than Dr. Steve McFeel. And what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look back at 2019, some of the achievements, some of the non-achievements, if there's such a word, some of the things that were not achieved in 2019, looking forward to 2020 in terms of what we would like to see. We know that in the Queen's speech in the UK, she lays out exactly what her government plans on doing for the year. We have our strategic policy statement here in the Cayman Islands. We had that. We had our budget address as well. We know what the government plans on doing. There are many or several pressing issues that need to be addressed in the Cayman Islands. And we want to talk about those this morning. So without any further ado, I want to say good morning. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Steve McFeel. And again, a happy, healthy, richly blessed 2020 to you and your family, Doc.
Thank you very much, OC and Mr. For the Record. And good morning and Happy New Year to all your listeners in the diaspora, locally, and all of those people who listen to you on the 3 days of the week that you're on For the Record. I hope that this year can be less placid than last year, and I hope that that some of the things that you laid out this morning can be taken seriously, because we are in the second decade now of the 21st century, and we are on the road where everything can happen so quickly, as we have seen over the last few days, and we do not know how long we have, not only to what we are doing ourselves, but for the climate change and everything that is happening all over this globe. It's good to be back with you and your audience in the year 2020, and I look forward to discussing the issues with you and to bringing the issues to your listeners, and at least trying to find some solutions to some of them.
Okay, I will. We're going to go to a commercial break in a few minutes, but in looking at one of our local publications online, the Caymanian Compass, we see several articles in there, and one of the articles that has been written by them has to do with the year in review, but looking at the Cayman courts. Now, I know that you, as an officer of the court, there are probably certain limitations that you have in terms of what you can say, and certainly not criticizing the courts in any way, but we'd also like to take a look at some of the cases that were highlighted.
Yes.
Now, in that article, there are several personal cases that have to do with individuals and crime in the Cayman Islands, but there are also some very important cases that have wide implications as far as Cayman society is concerned, and we want to take a look at those as well. So, folks, we're going to take a commercial break now. Don't change that dial. For the Record with Dr. Steve McFeel. We'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
Commissioner Hurst was noted for many achievements during his tenure, including the increase in road infrastructure, the establishment of the Government Savings Bank, and the modernization of the police force, amongst others. However, he was equally noted for his abrasive demeanor and conflicts with the local vestrymen. This conflict came to a head in November 1909 during the meeting of the magistrates and vestry. C.J.H. Goring, an appointed justice from Barbados who settled in Grand Cayman in 1901, publicly challenged Commissioner Hurst and complained of his behavior. Not to be outmatched, however, the commissioner responded, and upon adjournment of the session, he lectured the assembly, telling them that the attack by Justice Goring was an insult to his office. He further admonished Mr. Goring and his followers to, quote, fear God and honor the king. Information from this historical vignette was sourced from Founded Upon the Seas, A History of the Cayman Islands and Their People by Michael Creighton and the New History Committee.
Radio Cayman's historical facts vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Wow, it seems I buy a battery every year.
Oh, for real? You should buy your car battery from Vantman. Their batteries are tough. I have a 3-year warranty on mine.
Oh, I know that trick. I take it back and they charge me a percentage of the price.
Hear me out, bro. Not at Vamp Bobo. You can get a 3-year full warranty, no charge. And if they install it at Vamp, it includes free towing and jumping service. And let me tell you, you will never have to get your hands dirty changing no battery.
Get Motorcraft Max or Plus battery for 20% off when it's installed by the service department at Vamp Motors on Walkers Road. Now that's a deal you can get charged up about. Vamp Motors, keeping you on the road.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes, Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore,
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve Macfield. We're going to take a look back at the year 2019 and we're going to look at what our expectations, what we would like to see happen in 2020 in the Cayman Islands in certain respects as well. So there is an article in the Caymanian Compass and it is entitled Year in Review, Cayman's Courts. The article is written, I want to give credit to the author of this article, the writer, and that person's name is Andrell Harris. And he points out that a look back at Cayman's courts reveal a year of several notable judgments and changes within the judiciary. And he goes on to talk about sentences for, in one case, murder, in another case, murder, another one causing death by dangerous driving, two cases, death by dangerous driving. The case of a taxi driver who was involved in an accident that caused the loss of life of a prominent Jamaican doctor here in the Cayman Islands. Talks about foreign national convicted of rape and sentenced to 8 years in prison in the Cayman Brac. Speaks about the fleecing of nearly $2 million from one individual over a 5-year period to secure Caymanian status in the Cayman Islands. Speaks about the conviction of 9 out of 12 defendants for official corruption and fraud. And then some other cases that had started as well. But these were more personal cases. But Doc, we want to talk more about the cases that had wide-ranging implications for the Cayman Islands society. And in his article, I quote here, in a landmark case in March, same-sex couple Chantel Day and Vicky Borden Bush petitioned the Grand Court to change Cayman's marriage laws on the grounds that it was discriminatory to same-sex couples. Chief Justice Anthony Smeller ruled in favor of the couple and changed the law. However, in November, the Court of Appeal judges set aside the ruling but ordered the government to introduce a legal equivalent to same-sex marriage. This Court of Appeal also urged the UK government to step in if the government does not act expeditiously to address the issue. Let's talk about that case a little bit. I think we have about 7 minutes before we go off to our 8 o'clock news.
Well, I think Chantel Borden's and Day's challenge to
Chantel Day and Vicky Borden.
The Borden Day challenge to Section 14 of the Constitution was probably the biggest case that ever came before the court in 2009 and 2019. Now that case challenged the right to marry in the Cayman Islands. And the Section 14 says government shall respect the right to every unmarried man and woman of marriageable age as determined by law, freely to marry persons of the opposite sex and find a family. That case was a challenge to that section of the Constitution, where these two women challenged the marriage officer, the governor, and the attorney generals for not allowing them to be married in the Cayman Islands. Now, that case went before the Chief Justice, who heard it at first instance, and he found that their right to marry that was denied to them in the Cayman Islands was in breach of the Constitution. And he also found that Section 5 of the Constitution allowed him to say that they had the right to marry, and that he could change the marriage law. Now, just let me read to you what Section 5 of the Constitution says. Yeah. It says, subject to this section, the existing laws shall have effect on and after the appointed day, as if they had been made in pursuance of the Constitution, and shall be read and construed with such modifications, adoptions, qualifications, and exceptions as may be necessary to bring them into conformity with the Constitution. There was no problem with that one. And then it says, the legislature may make may make such amendments to any existing laws as appears to be necessary or expedient for bringing that law into conformity with the Constitution, or otherwise for giving effect to the Constitution, and any existing law shall have effect accordingly from such day, not being earlier than the appointed day as may be specified by the law in the legislature. Now, that was a challenge in the Court of Appeal by the Cayman Islands government. The government said that the Chief Justice had no right under the Constitution to change the law and to make a declaration as to what the law should be in relation to marriage, and that he had ignored and was not following Section 5(2) of the Constitution. And they overturned the Chief Justice's decision declaring that the couple had a right to marry in the Cayman Islands, and that he had the right to change the law unilaterally in the court below. And I think that itself was one of the landmark cases in 2009. The landmark case in the Cayman Islands, I would say, because what the Court of Appeal did on that level, on that appeal level, settled for all times the question of who has the right to marry in the Cayman Islands and who has the right to declare the law. And it's clear at the Court of Appeal level that the right to marry is only relegated to a man and a woman of the opposite sex, and that the courts in the Cayman Islands cannot change the law. And if the law needs to be changed, only the legislature can do that, and not a judge or judges in the courts. And I think that is a landmark case. Now,
what about their recommendation in terms of the fact that they should find a way to, the government needs to find a way to afford the couple the rights that they're entitled to under the Constitution, and also saying that if our legislators here fail to do that, that the UK government should step in and, by order in council or whatever other means, ensure that legislation is passed. Now, some people see that recommendation that they have made there as them taking a step too far as well, overreach.
It is what you said. It's a recommendation. It is as if you said, well, they have the right to do this, but you should at least give them the right to do something else. It's only a recommendation. Remember what I just read. Is the legislature, is the people of the Cayman Islands, through their representative in the legislature, that has the right to do anything. The courts can only make recommendations, but the legislature does not have to follow the court's recommendations. And for the courts to say what the United Kingdom should do is just going a bit too far, and seem to be treating us as if we're babes. And it reminds me of the old colonial adage that we're children and that we can't think for ourselves, and that we have to have somebody else think for us. And in this instance, the Parliament or the politicians in England to think for us.
Okay. Doc, I want to thank you very much for that explanation. Folks, we have a lot more to talk about here on For the Record with Dr. Steve McField in relation to the courts and otherwise as well. So please stay tuned. For the Record will be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And studio time now is 7:59. And this time check brought to you by Foster's.
How about this for a New Year's resolution? Live to eat. Yep, live to eat. Don't just eat to live. Find the balance between going crazy for that indulgently creamy made-from-scratch cake and knowing just how many nuts will make for a good, naturally healthy snack in between meals. Slow down and take in all of the joys of food in your life this year. And live to eat with Foster's. Follow along for tips and more this year as we live to eat in 2020.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Radio Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Island.
With your latest news, I'm Karsley Fuller. Cayman can expect decreasing showers and more sunny days as the region moves into the dry season. Every few months, the National Weather Service sends out a climate bulletin, breaking down some of the more interesting weather events over the last few months and teeing up what's to come. According to the report, temperatures ranged between 80 and 85 degrees in November, and the amount of rainfall fell 19% below average. Looking ahead, the Weather Service says a short-term drought is continuing to evolve in the Cayman Islands. They're predicting that rainfall totals from January through March are likely to be at least the usual for Cayman as we move into the dry season, and that means you can expect decreasing shower frequency and intensity. That being said, the Weather Service is reporting sunny days and some showers through January, with perhaps a wetter dry season than usual through March. Looking at precipitation, the January through March outlook calls for 40% probability of above normal rainfall. Historically, in January, February, and March, there are about 8 to 19 wet days. This forecast indicates the same for the next 3 months. Between 1 and 2 wet spells are expected to occur over the next 3 months. Now, when it comes to temperature, in the previous quarter, September through November, temperature averages clocked in at a median of 84 degrees. The usual temperature range for January, February, March at Owen Roberts International Airport is 78 degrees. The outlook calls for a 60% probability of above normal temperatures. And the National Trust for the Cayman Islands, in conjunction with the Ministry of Culture and the assistance of several local organizations, has saved one of Cayman's last standing authentic homes. Quaintly known in the community as the Clayton Nixon House, the traditional Caymanian-style home was located on Goring Avenue across the street from the Citrus Grove building in Georgetown, where it stood for nearly 150 years. After being alerted about the impending demolition of the relic and asked to find ways to preserve the house, the National Trust contacted the ministry as well as the minister and asked for help in securing the building's preservation. On Sunday, January 5th, all of the moving parts came together for a historic journey, which was greatly assisted by a full escort from the Cayman Islands Police Service and Caribbean Utilities Company. Once secure and settled at its new permanent location, the National Trust, along with the Ministry of Culture, will decide how best to utilize this extremely important representation of Cayman's history. The facility was moved to Boddentown near Mission House. In regional news, Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido was violently blocked from presiding over a special session of Congress this weekend, where rivals tried to install a substitute in what was condemned as a hijacking of the country's last democratic institution. Guaido led a small group of lawmakers trying to access the neoclassical palace, where the opposition-controlled National Assembly was set to elect its leader for the final year of its 2015 through 2020 period, when they were pushed back by National Guardsmen wielding heavy riot shields. As scuffles broke out, the U.S.-backed leader tried to mount an iron fence surrounding the legislator, only to be repelled again. Inside, the situation was similarly rowdy as a state rival headed by lawmaker Luis Parra tried to swear themselves in as legislative leaders with the support of socialist deputies loyal to President Nicolas Maduro. The Jamaica Gleaner reports that lacking quorum, there was no valid vote for Parra, the opposition said. Guaido, who despite some defections still enjoys a comfortable majority in the 167-seat assembly, immediately denounced the impromptu session as little more than a, quote, show carried out by a group of traitors in cahoots with Maduro. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Jerry Smith. Millions of Iranians have filled the centre of Tehran as a coffin carrying the remains of General Qasem Soleimani moves slowly through the streets. The vast event was part of 3 days of nationwide ceremonies planned to honour the commander who was killed in a US airstrike in Iraq. The sea of mourners passed his casket over their heads as they chanted, "Death to America." Beijing's new top official in Hong Kong has started work, urging the territory to return to what he called the right path. Luo Huining's appointment is the first major change in political leadership in Hong Kong since pro-democracy protests began. The embattled Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has promised $1.4 billion in aid to help his country recover from the continuing bushfire crisis. Mr. Morrison has been heavily criticised for his response to the fires. BBC News.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Hi, my name is Neraya LeBlanc. I am the minister and evangelist to the West Bay Church of Christ on 24 Batabano Road. I would love to take this opportunity to invite you to experience God's family at West Bay for yourself. We are a caring congregation that strongly believes in reaching out beyond ourselves to spread the gospel of Christ. We also take great pleasure in ministering to the needs of our people in our community. As God's called out kingdom people, we are in the business of transforming lives for the Master's use. For more information, you can visit our website at westbaycichurchofchrist.org or call us at 946-9294 or 917-1809.
Declaring the word of the Lord.
Cayman Islands Church of Christ presents Word of the Lord.
Word of the Lord, heard Sundays at 6:30 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
The Weather Report is proudly sponsored by Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky. New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it, drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Good morning. Time now for the latest weather report. Current temperature is 77 degrees. Relative humidity is 70%. Barometric pressure is 30.08 inches and rising. The wind is northeast at 12 knots. Overnight low temperature was 75 degrees. Synopsis indicate fresh northeasterly winds and rough seas expected to continue as the pressure gradient tightens over the northwest Caribbean due to the passage of a cold front. Radar images show scattered showers west of the Cayman area, which are moving towards the west. Now, the forecast for today calling for partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will be in the mid-80s. Your winds will be northeast at 15 to 20 knots, and seas will be moderate to rough with wave heights of 4 to 6 feet with swells. Tonight, you can expect partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers, and temperatures dipping to the low 70s tonight. Expect winds to be north at 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be moderate to rough with wave heights of 4 to 6 feet with swells, and small craft should continue to exercise caution over open water for today and tonight as well. High tide, we're presently at a high tide. Low tide will be this afternoon at 1:39. High tide again this evening at 6:27. The sun will set this evening at 6 and will rise tomorrow morning at a minute after 7. And the outlook is calling for moderate to fresh winds and moderate to rough seas expected to continue through Wednesday morning as the associated high-pressure system lingers over the southern United States. And that's the very latest on your weather report.
Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center was the proud sponsor of the Weather Report, your one-stop shop for all of your household items, craft items, jewelry, beads, and decorations, and much more. Call Super Stitch at 949-2833 or email customer care at superstitch.com.ky. New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it, drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Can you imagine where Cayman runs off renewable energy? We can. Learn how you can join government and be an energy advocate.
Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure's Facebook page to learn more.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit Subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Do you ever have those days when you have to get a super early start, or you're out late and want something fresh and healthy to eat? Subway has now opened their 4th 24-hour location for you early birds and night owls. Subway at West Shore Center on 7 Mile is now open 24 hours. So now you can grab any of Subway's fresh menu items any time of the day at 4 convenient locations. West Shore Center set in Savannah, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers West Bay. Subway. Eat fresh.
Once again, good morning, and we take a look at traffic. Busy traffic on the Linford Pearson highways. Slight delays expected, and steady traffic coming off Bobby Thompson Way, and steady traffic but flowing on Crew Road. Looking towards the West Bay four-way stop, traffic flowing moderately, and a moderate flow of traffic as well on Godfrey Nixon Way and Eastern Avenue. Light to moderate traffic flow on Owen Roberts Drive, and traffic flowing pretty good on Shedden Road, Edward Street, moderate flow of traffic, looking towards the West Bay area. In front of the Ritz on the West Bay Road, traffic is moderate in both directions. That's the very latest on your traffic. If you see any accidents or incidents on Cayman's roads, give us a call here at Radio Cayman at 949-6990. Safe driving, Cayman Islands.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit Subway.ky to place your catering order today.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. As you can see, programming changes on For the Record as well. News is not as long, shorter breaks and everything, so we can converse, with you, as well. Of course, during the holiday period, we had so many more commercials and everything else, but we will continue to work on advertising to ensure that we get more sponsors on For the Record as well. In the studio with me, my pleasure to have Dr. Steve MacPhail, and we're looking at an article written by Andrea Harris in today's Caymanian Compass entitled Year in Review, Cayman's Courts, and we're looking at the Day Bawden case and the Court of Appeal ruling in that particular case. Back to you, Doc.
Yeah, so just to sum up this particular case for your audience, what the Bawden Day case, the principles that come out of the Bawden Day case are two fundamental principles that comes out of that case. One is the legal principle that marriage in the Cayman Islands is between a man and a woman of the opposite sex to be legal. Mm-hmm. Any other marriage in the Cayman Islands between same sex is illegal and cannot happen here. That is the first principle. Marriage in the Cayman Islands, as the law stands constitutionally, is between a man and a woman of the opposite sex. And number two, the other fundamental principle that the Bawden Day case, that comes out of the Bawden Day case, is that the courts in the Cayman Islands do not have the constitutional right to amend or to make any existing laws, to amend any existing laws or to make any new laws in the Cayman Islands. That prerogative to amend or to make laws is relegated under the Constitution, under Section 5 of the Constitution, to the Legislative Assembly of the Cayman Islands. Therefore, only the people of the Cayman Islands can make new laws and not the judicial system, because what that does is to keep the distance between the separation of powers between the judicial and the legislative branch of government. And that case, the Bawden Day case, makes that quite plain. Now, what the Bawden Day case went on to do is to make suggestions to the government, but unfortunately, those suggestions really have no legal strength. They're only suggestions, and perhaps they're a way to appease the other side that we should adopt the policy and conform with what happens in the United Kingdom. But other than that, what the declarations have no legal effect, and the Legislative Assembly can ignore what the Court of Appeal said in relation to those things, as if they so wish. And bearing in mind that what we have seen so far is the United Kingdom, the Foreign Commonwealth Office, the Parliament, the Cabinet in the United Kingdom say that they are leaving it to the territories to sort out the whole question of whether or not they will allow same-sex marriages.
Yes, they have said that in the past. They've said that in the case of Bermuda as well. And but it'll be interesting to see whether or not, based on that quote-unquote recommendation that the courts has made, whether the UK, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office there, will have a change of heart now and say, well, this is what we said in relation to Bermuda, but here we have a recommendation of a court which you have pointed out is not legally binding on anyone. Now, to a few more questions that I have in relation to the case, Dr. Macfield. We don't know yet whether or not any of the parties will appeal to the
Privy Council. Yes. Yeah, we don't know if they have appealed. We don't know. It would seem to me that they should have. We should have known by now, because this case was in November, wasn't it?
But has the Court of Appeal actually published their full judgment, or they just gave us the summary and the decision?
I think the judgment has been published. I don't know, but I think the judgment has been published. I believe I saw excerpts of it somewhere. I don't know if the whole judgment has been published, or they gave it orally, and that they reserved judgment to be a written judgment. But I don't know. But I thought that perhaps that there was suggestions that there was going to be an appeal, but I haven't seen any appeal yet. And of course, in the legal arena, you don't appeal until after you get the judgment. You don't appeal on what the judges say on the bench.
During the course of the show, I'll do some research to see if I can find out if any of our listeners are aware of the fact that it has been published. Please send us a WhatsApp message 925-3261 to let us know that as well. Moving on, Mr. Harris also points to the passing of Grand Court Judge Mr. Charles Quinn, speaks to the departure of Justice Mangatal and the eminent return of former Chief Magistrate Margaret Ramsey Hale, who will be returning to the court as a Grand Court Judge as well. Starting with Justice Quinn, a real gentleman, a likable person, knowledgeable about the Cayman Islands due to the fact that he had resided in the Cayman Islands for so long. Magistrate and now Grand Court Judge Margaret Ramsey Hale returning to the Cayman Islands, again, quite knowledgeable about the Cayman Islands, a visionary in terms of justice in the Cayman Islands, in terms of what she has done with the drug court and everything. How important is it for our justices in the Cayman Islands to have a wide array of awareness of Caymanian society, Cayman customs, the Caymanian people in rendering judgments, recognizing, of course, that they have a law that they have to interpret and make judgments based on that. But how relevant are those other factors that I mentioned before?
For me, it's called vested interests. It goes beyond the job and it goes beyond the law. Mr. Justice Quinn had a vested interest in the Cayman Islands, and so is Ms. Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
He immersed himself in the Caymanian culture. He became one of us. He didn't stay aloof and criticize and not allowed himself to understand the Cayman ethos, where we were coming from, how we got here, and what happened how we got to this position. When a case came before him, for instance, with a defendant from Rockall, Mr. Justice Quinn knew
where Rockall
was.
There it is, yeah.
And he knew the state of living in Rockall, and he probably knew how that person came before him for trial or for sentence, because he cared to know the people that he was bringing justice for. Remember now, he has the scale of justice in his hands.
Yeah.
A lot of judges don't care.
They can tilt it one way or the other.
They can tilt it one way or the other. And if you come here and you are just a passerby, you're just passing by, you're just passing through, and you're just giving judgment, you don't know anything about the society in which you're giving judgment from, you will not be able to do the kind of work that Mr. Justice Quinn did. I actually loved the man because he was just and he was fair, and he dwelled into the reasons why people came to the court. And even before sentencing, he tried his best to find the appropriate sentence for the particular defendant, and not a sentence that the law says that was uniform. Mrs. Ramsey is the same. Mrs. Ramsey lived among the Caymanian people. She understood them. She cared to understand them. She wanted to understand them, because she wanted in herself to be able to say, I am a good justice, not what the people wanted her to other people wanted her to do, but what she saw. And there are very few judges or very few magistrates who came to the Cayman Islands with that sort of attitude. There are not many of them. I remember when Mr. Justice Quinn came first from Bermuda.
Yeah.
He was prosecuting. And when he came in those days, the last Friday in every month was the worst day. And in those days, you had to prove your petition before the Chief Justice. You had, or the Grand Court Judge, whoever was presiding. You had to go put your petitioner in the box and go through all the divorce petition. And people were in court, could hear all of the salacious things that the respondent did to the petitioner. You had to say them. And it was very embarrassing in those days. We don't do that anymore now.
Okay.
And there were a whole lot of us in court that day. Mr. Levy, Keith Collins, and some other people. And I was in the front bench. And Mr. Justice Quinn and Mr. Quinn came in then, as he was then, and says, "Well, I don't know how to address the judge." And Mr. Levy said, "Well, Mr. McPhail is senior here today. You ask him." And I turned around from the front bench to the back bench where Mr. Quinn was, and I says to him, "I don't know where you're from, but I says to him, don't follow me, because sometimes I'm right on the edge of contempt. So don't follow me." And so every time Mr. Justice Quinn saw me, even at the bench, sometimes in a hallway, he would be walking and say, "Mr. McPhail," he says, "I hope you're not sailing to the age of contempt today." yes. But he was a great judge.
Yes, he was a good man. He was a good man.
I remember he would summon me sometimes and ask me if I wanted to do a case that he was granting legal aid for, because he was worried about some defendant who had been found guilty. And when he came to sentence them, and he asked them what they had to say, and then they said, well, they didn't remember this or they didn't remember that of the incident, and he would ask me if I wanted to make an application on behalf of that person, because he was very worried that he might be sentencing someone who didn't have the mens rea, who didn't have the intention. And that's the kind of judge that he was. He was a great, great judge, and someone who cared about the Caymanian people.
Okay, now want to look forward in terms of the state of our judiciary here in the Cayman Islands. Local judges. We see, for instance, in Bermuda, local judges are appointed, and they're mainly Bermudan local judges. Coming up through the ranks of the legal system, sometimes, as private lawyers, but eventually appointed as judges. We see people in the legal profession coming to the Cayman Islands, returning to their country of origin, becoming judges in the Eastern Caribbean, courts of the Eastern Caribbean. We see less and less native Caymanians going on the bench in the Cayman Islands. If we are to get that local flavor and to create that equilibrium, that balance, balance in the scales of justice, how can we do that if we don't get more Caymanians appointed to the bench? And when I say that, I'm not laying the blame on those persons who appoint justices in the Cayman Islands, but we also have to see people have an interest in wanting to be in that position. The legal profession in the Cayman Islands, quite attractive from a financial perspective, depending on what law firm you're in and what you're specializing in. So that attraction is there. But we have individuals like you, for instance, who should be, in my humble opinion, should be a part of the judiciary because you have that local flavor, that local knowledge. You have felt it, you have lived it, you have seen it. What is the future for our judiciary as far as Caymanian participation in judging our people?
Well, I think there's a bigger picture that a lot of Caymanian lawyers don't see.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of them who didn't see it either. Using my own experience, when I came back, before I went to do the bar to do the bar exams in England, I was clerk of the courts. I did a good job there, and I was recruited by the government to come to work with the government permanently. And when I came back, I was prosecuting. And I remember my boss said to me one day, they were short of magistrates, Mr. David Barrick, and he asked me if I would like to go down to the courts to do the magistrate job until they found someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I refused to do that because I didn't see that as being an established position. I didn't see that as being a position that would take me anywhere. And I saw myself getting as much experience from the legal, from the prosecution side as possible to go out into the private sector to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
But because I thought in those days when I was younger, I thought that money was the means to the ends, and a lot of other lawyers felt that way also, and they didn't want to go on the bench because they were limited. But I didn't see the bigger picture. There's other things that you can do for your country
Mm-hmm.
beside making money, and there's something called nation building that you should be a part of. And a lot of people don't see the nation building. They believe that nation building is having a lot of money and millions of dollars in a bank in a big house, but they don't see nation building as being part of the evolution of your country. The judicial evolution, the legal evolution, the political evolution of your country, the social evolution. And so most of the appointments then are not pursued by Caymanian lawyers who are qualified to sit on the bench. Now, so when the time came for me, and then I had this attitude when I first came, I'm not an establishment person. I made that quite clear. I'm not an establishment man.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you're not going to be appointed on the bench unless you're part of the establishment. So things have changed. The years have mellowed me. Things have changed. I saw the bigger picture, and I realized that that even when I went out there, the kind of money that I thought that I would have made, it never materialized, because that kind of money that the other people were making were only for a particular set of people. And so today, that vacuum still exists, and then there's this other feeling of people from other places that we are such a small knit community that we could not give justice impartially to our own people.
Yes.
I remember many years ago there was a particular commissioner of police who was advocating that we should do away with jurors. Because the police was bringing such bad cases to the court, they could not get convictions because the jury would say not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, and he wanted to get rid of jurors. That was the answer, not to do better policing and to bring better evidence to court. And so that is a factor too. That factor, I think, now has come to the forefront, and they're saying now it's better to bring judges from outside because Caymanians would probably close the eye, so to speak, the judicial eye, so to speak, on their own people and not be impartial. Okay. And I think that prevails today in the system.
Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned. For the Record with Dr. Steve Macfield will continue after this short commercial break.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Wow, it seems I buy a battery every year.
Oh, for real? You should buy your car battery from Vantman. Their batteries are tough. I have a 3-year warranty on mine.
Oh, I know that trick. I take it back and they charge me a percentage of the price.
Hear me out, bro. Not at Vamp Bobo. You can get a 3-year full warranty, no charge. And if they install it at Vamp, it includes free towing and jumping service. And let me tell you, you will never have to get your hands dirty changing no battery.
Get Motorcraft Max or Plus battery for 20% off when it's installed by the service department at Vamp Motors on Walkers Road. Now that's a deal you can get charged up about. Vamp Motors, keeping you on the road.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve Macfield. We're discussing court cases in the past year, 2019, looking towards the future, 2020, what will take place as well. And one of the articles that we were discussing was one written by Andrea Harris in reviewing some of the court decisions in the Cayman Islands in 2019. Now, one that hadn't been mentioned here was the application for judicial review in relation to the port referendum. That has not been mentioned here, and quite possibly you believe simply because it was only the application for judicial review. But that in itself was significant because it could have gone the other way easily, right?
Judicial review is usually in 2 stages. Remember now, judicial review are the prerogative side of the law. You don't have a right to judicial review. Yeah, you have to get leave to apply for judicial review by the judges. Now, and then when you make the application for leave, you have to show that you have a substantial matter that the courts ought to give you leave to for the court to hear it. So they were able to get through the first stage of the judicial review process, which was the application for leave to apply for judicial review. So the courts gave them leave to apply for judicial review, saying, yes, what you have shown us on your affidavit, we believe that there's a substantial issue to be heard, and that's what the court did. But the matter is not before the court yet. The judicial review is not before the court yet. That doesn't come up until later this month. I think it's around the 20th of January. I think yes. that the substantial issue comes up, and perhaps that's the reason why they never mentioned that, because really the matter is just not before the court yet.
Okay. Now another story that came up. Oh, we have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. But before we take the caller, another story that was highlighted in the Caymanian Compass had to do with an iconic store in the Cayman Islands, legendary, the Edward Solomon's store closing. And we want to take a look at that, not at the store itself, but we want to take a look at Caymanian businesses, the locally owned Caymanian businesses, the status of those businesses in the Cayman Islands, and the threats in 2020 and moving on, the threats to local Caymanian businesses continuing to exist in the Cayman Islands based on the success that we have in the Cayman Islands, based on the percentage of returns that investors can achieve in the Cayman Islands, including the fact that no corporate taxes are paid in the Cayman Islands. Yes, those individuals, if they're citizens of other countries, they may have to pay taxes eventually. But because of the very strong economic climate in the Cayman Islands, we're seeing more and more investors. And I want to talk about some foreign companies like Chuka and another company that has just bought warehouses in an area in Cayman called Rosedale. I believe it is called Rosedale warehouses. And we're seeing more and more foreign entities investing in the Cayman Islands, investing in areas that were traditionally areas that were dominated by Caymanians. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O.C., and good morning, Mr. Steele.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
This is a question I want to ask this morning. When you have a case in court and it's put down like 3 and 4 years, and other cases come up, let's say the cases come up, and they keep on coming up, and you can't hear nothing from your case. What do you do about it?
Well, do you have an attorney who represents you?
Yeah.
Well, you should speak to him because he is your advocate in before the courts, and he is an officer of the court, and he would have the audience before any court to advocate your case and to bring it forward.
We go to him and he says he can't get no hearing, they can't give no dates, they can't give nothing like that.
Well, so, then there are all kind of motions that you can bring. You can. I don't want to give you any legal advice on the show, but there are all kinds of motions that your attorney can bring in those circumstances if what you say is correct.
Yeah. Well, that's been about 2 and 3 years now, and when I go to him and say that he can't get no hearing, they can't give no date, so.
Well, you probably should go and put fire under your attorney and get them to get you back in the court and to make motions and he would know what the motions would be about.
You couldn't go to the courthouse and ask them to look about it.
Well, it's not only going to the courthouse. He has the system. The law gives him the right to make certain motions in those circumstances. And your attorney would know what those motions are.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, and you have a good day.
Thank you, too.
Thank you very much, caller, for that as well. Okay. I'm looking to find the article in relation to the Chuka case But
well, in relation to what you just said, some things that you just said, I believe, and this is only my personal assessment, that we lost our ability to control our economic system a long time ago. I have a philosophy that I gathered through my travels and living in other countries and so forth. And I noticed what happened to the great family in United Kingdom. You know, the family who owns Harrods store, one of the largest stores in the world. I don't know if that family has British citizenship yet, because remember now
it was opposed. Yeah,
it was opposed when the son was the
Princess Diana.
With Princess Diana, the British government refused to give those people citizenship in Britain. And taking it from there, it is my belief that when we had the Caymanian Protection Law, when that was enforced, we should have kept that in force, and we should never have allowed anyone who was wealthier than the wealthiest Caymanian families to come in and get Caymanian citizenship that could put them out of business. And another thing, the Caymanian families who own the businesses, that we depended upon for our business success as Caymanians, we sold them out. We gave them away. We didn't bring in new people. We didn't bring in new blood. And as the old families died out, as the members of the old families died out, the businesses died with them. And that's one reason why Georgetown now is a ghost town. And they never saw the future. They never expanded. Let's go for instance. When you read about urbanization and so forth in other countries, and you read about businesses in other countries, one of the things that generated the department stores and the shopping malls in America, in all the world, was the motor car. They realized that people wanted to drive their motor cars, and if you live downtown and the stores were downtown on the main street, you didn't actually drive your motor car to go anywhere. You kept your motor car parked on the road by itself. And so what they did is start building malls 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 10 miles away from where you live, so that they could drive their motor car and they could sell more gasoline and so forth. When the life of the motor car started taking off in Cayman, the people who own the businesses didn't see that and build more shopping malls in different places and control the economy. They allow other people to come to do it. And what they did, they didn't allow any second economy in the Cayman Islands. There was only one economy, their economy. And when 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock came in the afternoon, they closed their doors, and you went home, and you worked for them, went home too, and you were not allowed to have any small businesses to subsidize yourself, and you went back to work for them in the morning. And so that is how we developed until other people came in and said, things have changed now. And so that's one of the reasons why our economy has been now sold to other people from other jurisdictions. They're coming in, buying up trust companies, they're buying up land, they're buying up everything that's for sale, and we are being marginalized. And all we are doing is standing on the sidewalk and listening and looking and talking about it in hushed tones, like I say on the verbal verandas of Cayman Islands, and not doing anything about it. And what we should do, we should get together as a group of people, like other people do. Like when I went to Canada and all of those places, I remember I was on a talk show called Hourglass. It's put on by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation every evening. It's an hour and a half. And the moderator was a man called Jack Wasserman. He was asking me about, things in my country, and we were discussing things in his country. And he told me that when they came from Poland just after the war, and they went to Saskatchewan, and that his brother, who wanted to be a doctor, could not get into the university because there was only 4 Jews here. And his brother was the 5th Jew. And I said, well, what did you do? And he said, well, they stood out, and he waited until his turn came, and then he also went back into the law faculty, into the medical faculty, and then they became the faculty, and then they could admit anyone they wanted to admit. But we don't do that here. We don't galvanize ourselves. For instance, one of the lucrative businesses in the Cayman Islands is restaurants and on the 7 Mile Beach and hotels and guest houses. I don't see 10 and 12 and 14 Caymanians getting together and building a hotel and building guest houses and building their restaurants and things like that and getting a piece of the pie, a share of the money, like what the Flowers Brothers are doing with their office buildings. Certainly that family understands how the system works and are gotten together and stayed together as a family and building office buildings and are getting a piece of pie. I don't see other people doing that. Everywhere I go, even the smallest little business now it seems to be owned by someone who's not Caymanian. And it's our fault. And there's no, we criticize the people who come. We brag about so many people from different nationalities, 125 different nationalities come here. But what do we own? What do we actually own for ourselves? That's the problem. Yeah. And unless we wake up this year and understands that nobody's going to give us a handout. Nobody's going to give us a handout. We have to do it ourselves, and we have to get together ourselves collectively. And we have to do and make our own way. It's not enough to sit down and say, I'm Caymanian now, and I'm entitled to this and that, because that's not going to happen to you. Yep. It's not going to fall into your lap.
Okay. We have a caller on hold. We have to take a commercial break. We're going to ask that caller. Hang in there. Quick commercial break. When we return, we will go directly to the phone lines.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Sing your praise to the Lord. Come on, everybody, stand up and sing one more. Hallelujah, give your praise to the Lord. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the land.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
There's a meeting up in heaven. Roll call. It's a name in the Lamb's Book of Life. Roll call, brother, sister. Roll call. If you don't stop shouting, if you don't stop dancing, we're going to put you out of our church.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Your song flowed through my lips. Your work moved through my hands. Your thoughts stay on my mind. Live in me.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve Macfield. One caller on hold. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Happy New Year.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thanks. All the best to you.
Yeah, I'm happy New Year. Every brief was obviously. Every New Year, right, everyone has their New Year's resolution, right, maturity. And this year is very special, right? Deep year, 2020, forever. I get the point now. Let's all see. Right now, in the whole global periphery, right? There's a fiction of fear of World War III, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Obama and George Washington Jr. never took out that general, but Trump did it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the prices of crude oil went up from Friday.
Yes.
Skyrocket.
Yes.
So surely, gradually, right? And our Cayman periphery, right? I want to see other alternative sources for petrol. If not last resort, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The prices of living go up eventually. To the price going up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That remind me of we saw see when I was 7 or 8 years old. Desert Storm, right? We could read. That one I can read a whole Cayman bus completely by myself, thoroughly. You know what I'm saying? So, like I say, until we get talk now, with this war thing now, with Johnson, Trump, the U.S. trade deal or Atlantic trade deal, that could be jeopardized. Yeah? So I'm saying, so I don't want, like this year, I don't want to live in no discombobulated state or a conundrum. Yeah? So, as Caymanian citizens, we got to be look out for our best interests. Yeah?
Definitely, yes, definitely.
I got fun to say now, this herb thing, I don't want to state they have interdiction of herbs and tactics, then they fear up. That are petty things. Them say tax union, that's a powerful thing, you know, everybody in power there. You know what I'm saying? And permitting, spreading that. And then to that, but you know, down our courts now, you see what happened. Gentlemen, have a good day.
Thank you very much, Rambo. You enjoy the day as well, and certainly stay focused, and he ensures that he keeps himself informed about what's happening, not only in the Cayman Islands, but worldwide as well. So, Doc, this article, it was published on the 29th of December in the Jamaica Gleaner. Senior business writer, Huntley Medley. And I'm going to read as much and paraphrase as much of it as possible. But it goes on to say, Chuka, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Chuka Caribbean Adventures is in the market for more than US $50 million of debt and equity to finance a range of projects that are intended to double the size of the business over the next 6 months to a year. So time period is 6 months to a year. The Jamaican business that now operates 85 tour packages at 15 locations here and in Belize and the Turks and Caicos Islands is spreading its wings to the Cayman Islands, the Dominican Republic, and Barbados as the first step in a larger vision to grow the business to between 10 and 15 countries in a 5 to 7 year time frame. The new DR operation, well, we'll talk too much about that. It says the DR activities will take the form of lush tropical forests, canopy tours, zip lines, and dune buggies, while Cayman, where a deal is being wrapped up to acquire a going concern, is expected to involve mainly catamaran boat rides. I'm going to again pull out the parts that's in relation to the Cayman Islands. Now, we have heard talk as to what that company, the name of that company. It is not mentioned in the article, so I won't mention it here without any evidence to back it up. But it is an ongoing business in the Cayman Islands that deals with tours. What else do they say about the Cayman Islands in this particular article in relation to the Cayman Islands? I'll try to find that. But the whole idea here is we have an ongoing concern in the Cayman Islands, Caymanian-controlled company, and it is now seems as if that company is being acquired by this Jamaican company. We have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines and we'll come back to this. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. We'll see. Happy New Year, Dr. Steve.
Happy New Year, Mr. Dr. Elvis. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Okay.
I put a piece on the Facebook yesterday. I don't know if you guys deal with that, but you know, I was sitting down thinking and talking to some people, you know, reminiscing about the old time, and you know, the discrimination that have been against the poorer class Caymanian, orchestrated, the people with the blueprint, orchestrated to jail us and give us police records so they can bring in OSS, I call them, overseas slaves. Look at, but to see, you remember when Hercules came to Cayman, them time that they catch him with a phrase, not what. And you know what that man said? And I remember this plea, it just come back to me, say, anybody that get catch with marijuana under the tamarind tree or down in West Point where they call it the land will be going directly to prison. But he never said he get catch with it on 7 Mile Beach, you know.
Yes.
Just where the poor West Bear and the poor Georgetown and Hansford they did read and Vigor Bear. And that was orchestrated from then. Designed to keep the poor Caymanians out of the development. And listen to me now. When they couldn't catch them little boys, because you know we had speed, if it or not, them police they couldn't catch us. So you know what they done? They whisper in the ear of the politician, let's do a urine test. If he run away, we still got him. Because if you give the urine test, you're gone. If you don't give it, you're still gone. Because I spent three months out of my life crippling Douglas. He didn't go like he used to smoke ganja in the night in jail, people fit in the day. Because I know his friend that hang out with him, large friend them. They tell me, they look at him and say, how can you be so wicked? He said he was brought to Cayman to do a job. He's doing it, locking up the poor people. But anyhow, with that said, I got a thing up there and I told it, and I'm telling all of the voters, all of them who have parents, friends, whoever smoke weed, if abortion is not brought before the election, no promises this time, before the election, do not vote for neither. Only one there is willing, you know. That's Mr. Ezra Miller. But the rest of them, if they not come up with a motion, because of the gay business, they got to do that. And if they don't bring a motion to decriminalize, legalize, somebody to lead a poor Caymanian alone for marijuana, do not vote for not one of them in there. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. I think, Ms. Susan, do you want us to come straight to you now? We can continue to talk for about another minute or so, Doc. Oh, 4 minutes. Okay. What Elvis said there is right. Now, during the holidays, we talked about the marches. We talked about the tamarind tree.
Yes, one of the largest trees in the Cayman Islands.
But it was cut down
by a judge who ordered it to be cut down. And the government cut it down by a judge ordered it to be cut down on private property.
Yes.
That is the state of affairs in those days. It was the people who owned it, down Granwell Road, and it was on the.
Was it the Seymours that owned that property, or it was near to Mr. Dell's?
It was on Fanny's property.
Okay, yes, Miss Fanny, yeah.
Yes, on Fanny's property, and it was just opposite to the walking well on Granwell Road, where it was one of the largest trees in the Cayman Islands, where it was a community site, community venue where people gathered and play marbles and things like that. And he ordered it to be cut down on private property, and the government went in and cut it down. Of course, in those days, we didn't have any Bill of Rights that will protect us, and that's what he did. And remember now, in those days, if you got sentenced to anything over 9 months,
you went to Jamaica.
You went to Jamaica Penitentiary at Raytown Prison. That's where you went, and it was hard labor. So we've come a long way. Although Elvis is complaining, we did come a long way from those days.
Well, there's something of note as well in terms of what Elvis said. The legislation that we passed. Trying to remember the name of it, but it has to do with the expunging of criminal records.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the new legislation.
Trinidad had something. They either have done it or proposing to do something similar. Of course, the U.S. Embassy in Trinidad has been monitoring that. And only last week or week before that, they came out with a statement that says that despite the fact that this legislation may be in place that expunges your record, that when you're applying for a visa for the United States, you still have to indicate the fact that you had that conviction on there. Otherwise, because it could still make you ineligible for a visa to enter the U.S. We have to be extremely careful here in the Cayman Islands that something similar does not happen to those persons when their record has been expunged, that they're not facing similar fate there as well. I believe, Ms. Susan, you're ready for us to come to you now. We're going to headline news at 9 o'clock, very short period. When we return, Dr. Macfield, I'll get you to address that. Please stay tuned.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access to information. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The National Trust has successfully relocated Clayton Nixon House, a traditional Caymanian home that was located on Goring Avenue across the street from the Citrus Grove building. The move took place Sunday morning, and the facility has been transported to an area near Mission House in Button Town. Huge crowds have packed the streets of the Iranian capital Tehran for the funeral of Iranian military commander Qasem Soleimani. Soleimani was assassinated in a U.S. drone strike in Iraq on Friday on the orders of President Donald Trump. Iran's supreme leader led prayers and at one point was seen weeping. Iran has vowed, quote, severe revenge for the death of Soleimani and on Sunday pulled back from its 2015 nuclear accord. And British stars have had a golden night at the Golden Globes, where Australia's bushfires were the main talking point. The newly knighted Sir Sam Mendes received 2 awards for his World War I epic 1917, the same number won by Elton John biopic Rocket Man. Phoebe Waller-Bridge's sitcom Fleabag won 2 prizes, while Olivia Colman won for playing the Queen in The Crown. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve Macfield. Yeah, the rehabilitation of
the rehabilitation of offenders law is an old law. It started in England first. I think around 1965 or something like that. Mm-hmm. The rehabilitation of offenders law came into effect. We adopted it verbatim, almost verbatim. The rehabilitation of offenders law set a period for different offenses in which your conviction would be expunged once that period had come about and you did not have any conviction within that period of time. There were some offenses that could not be expunged at all. When we changed the law last year, I think the year before last, we changed the law, and we brought in a new law. We did away with the rehabilitation of offenders law, and we said the new law that we brought in. We said your conviction could be expunged, but it has to go before a committee. Mm-hmm. Now, under the all rehabilitation of offenders law, for instance, if the offense that you committed stated that you had to be free of conviction for 2 years before your conviction could be expunged. Once that 2 years had elapsed, automatically the police would wipe that off your record. And you could go to the police station and it would give you a clean police record. That's not so under the new system now. Even though your 2 years might have elapsed, you have to go now and apply to a committee. And they might not do it. Because, they might have somebody in the committee might have an issue with you or your family or your brother or your sibling or whatever. I don't like that. So I don't like that because it put it backwards. Now, the information that you gave me this morning makes it even worse. Because if the United States and maybe other countries could do the same thing, is insisting that even when your country has expunged your conviction under their law, that they're insisting that your convictions ought to be revealed to them before they allow you into their country. That is going to be something that we have to look at very carefully, and perhaps our government might have to do some sort of diplomatic arrangements with the countries in which you were visiting to be able to get that clarified, because a lot of people will not be able to travel to certain places. That is not so good. And if what you say is coming into effect, then that is going to affect a lot of Caymanian people whose conviction has been expunged during the years.
Okay. Let's go to the phone lines. One caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Happy New Year to you.
Good morning and Happy New Year to my dear friends and to the esteem.
Good morning, ma'am.
Maxfield. This is Lucille Seymour here. I don't want to stay long. I just want to give Dr. Maxfield an opportunity to expound on something.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know that he's been talking very, very well spoken on the conditions of competition and fair trading for Caymanians. And I want him to talk about the fair trading law that I anticipate that in the budget that they said they were going to bring to the Cayman Islands, and how that would affect what he was talking about, the disparity in Caymanians owning businesses and the competition. Because I think that might be the answer to bringing antitrust laws. I want him to expound that because I know he's quite capable of doing that. The other point I wanted him to expound on is who applies the penalties for felonies? Isn't it not the legislature?
Yes.
Well, if it's the legislature want to make a difference in the Cayman Islands, then they have to review the laws. I'd like you to talk on that. I know you are very good at it. I just wanted, because I know once you get something in your head, you go with it. Those 2 points I'd like you to elaborate on to see how it can be fair to the Caymanians in terms of being competitive in business, and also looking at the penalties that we apply for some of these felonies that people commit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In relation to your first issue, I had always been an advocate of the free enterprise system, but the free enterprise system sometimes can get out of hand, and you can be free for some people and be not enterprising for others. You cannot in a small country where you're not producing wealth and you're not producing jobs, or you're not satisfying the needs of the people by educating them and training them to exist in this global village that we are now in. We are going to have what I would call the chronic dependency effect. Now, it is not enough to have desire, because desire is not important if it is not supported by a educational foundation. One of the first things that we did not do in the Cayman Islands and by our founding fathers and the people who came subsequently was a good education and training. My generation and people who came before me were lucky that we went to work for a company called National Bulk Carriers or Southwell. We were lucky. And sometimes when I look back on those days, I wonder what would have happened to me as a youth if that had not happened in the Cayman Islands, with so many thousands and hundreds of boys and girls growing up into those chronic days when we had nothing here in the Cayman Islands. What we would have done, where we would have gone to. We were lucky. What we have done now is that let me go on for if you do not have you don't have to be a entrepreneurial genius or a political wizard to understand that a country that is plagued with a dependency effect will fall into social chaos and economic instability. and then we'll have poverty areas. So in those respects, the government has to step in, and the government has to set the standards. They have to set the measures of what one person can do with all their wealth. You cannot allow one person with all their wealth to overcome everybody else. That does not happen in some places like the great United States. Although they are the bastion of free enterprise system, they do not allow one person to do that. When you allow people into the country who are richer than the richest people in your own country, you're only asking. It's like what the Chinese man said. Mao says, you're picking up a stone to drop on your own 2 feet. You're destroying your own system. You cannot allow that to happen. You can allow people to come in to do businesses, but they must not have absolute and complete control and be able to overcome your own people. And where your own people cannot compete, then the government has to step in to set the standards. You see that in races, and on a track and field, all over. There's handicaps. Where certain people have handicaps over other people so that they can compete equally. And in America, they have that in the Fair Trading Act, and they have that in the universities, where minorities and people who have quotas to get in, but because to make it fair when they don't have the qualification to get in because of where they came from and the area that they grew up in. That is number one. Number two, there are certain crimes, certain grave crimes here that we do not have any more control over. It's because we are not an independent country. For instance, when someone kills someone today, mother country says that we should put them in jail and for life, and then after life. And our law said that we should put them in jail for life, and now they says, well, life does not mean life. You have to have a tariff. You have to have so many years in which they can walk the streets again and get out. I believe in that. I believe that once you have paid your debt to society, you ought to be able to go about your own business and retrieve your rights to vote and all those sort of things. But there are some crimes here which the legislature has, I would not say refused to look to examine. For instance, there are some violent crimes here that needs the penalty to suit the crimes, and that is a problem that we have. Some of them are too lenient, and some of them are over the top. And the people in the Cayman Islands have to be more vigilant, and they have to elect people who have a better understanding of how to build a society and the long range vision, and not a frontierism where everybody is grabbing what they can get, and the sheep herders and the goat herders and the cattlemen are fighting against each other.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Doc. Ms. Susan, you ready for a commercial break, folks? Please stay tuned. For the Record with Dr. Steve Macfield will continue right after this short commercial break.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Preventing dengue is as simple as preventing mosquito bites. Use a mosquito repellent, wear protective clothing, and stay indoors during early dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. Control the places around you where mosquitoes breed. Remove stagnant water in outdoor and household settings. As a weekly habit, persons should change the water in vases, clear the water in saucers under potted plants, and ensure air conditioner drip trays are free of stagnant water. Outdoor objects capable of holding water should be kept empty and preferably disposed of or put into dry storage if not used. These include open bottles and tins, watering cans, buckets, empty paint tins, and old vehicle tires. Do your part to control the spread of dengue. The dengue virus is an infectious disease transmitted through mosquito bites. Symptoms may come on as early as 4 days or as late as 3 weeks following an infection. There is no vaccine or specific medication to treat dengue. Symptoms of dengue include high fever, headache, pain behind the eyes, joint and muscle pain, and rash. If persons have any of these symptoms, they should go to the nearest health center or hospital. It is advised to drink lots of liquids and avoid medication that contains aspirin.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning and none other than Dr. Steve McPhail. Two issues that I raised, and Dr. McPhail, you commented on one in relation to the rehabilitation of offenders law. And I spoke about what the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Spain, Trinidad, said. And this article, and I think it's coming from the U.S. Embassy's website in Trinidad and Tobago, and it is entitled Cannabis Legalization as it pertains to visa applications. And it has more to do with legalization of cannabis, but it falls within the same scope of the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act to a certain extent. And it says that the adoption of the Dangerous Drugs Amendment Bill 2019 into Trinidad and Tobago law does not exempt persons with expunged convictions from disclosing such information on visa applications. It goes on to say that under U.S. immigration law, visa applicants who have ever been convicted or arrested for any offense, including drug-related offenses, still must disclose that information to U.S. officials when they apply for a U.S. visa. Prior arrests and convictions, even if expunged, could still indicate visa ineligibility. Failure to reveal arrest or convictions could lead to a visa ineligibility as well. So, you know, whether or not what we have done, what they have done in Trinidad, whether or not that in essence solves the problem for persons who were convicted years back in relation to
that's
very petty serious offenses when it came to consumption serious. And stuff.
If the Americans are insisting about that, that's very serious. It means that's going to be applied to our law as well, applied to our rehabilitation law as well, and it seems to me that if that is true, is it in effect already?
Well, the Dangerous Amendment Bill, 2019. That was adopted in Trinidad.
That's the Trinidad side.
Yes,
but has the Americans insisted that they're not honoring those
Well, what they have said is that you must disclose your expunged, even if it's expunged, you must disclose the fact that you were arrested or convicted on your visa application. But what about those people
who went to the embassy, went all over, and who had convictions and they were expunged? What's going to happen to them now?
And had
had visas now. What's going to happen to them?
Okay. Well, remember now, we always speak erroneously about renewing a visa.
Yes.
The American U.S. Embassy's position on that is it is not a renewal. When your visa expires, you're applying for a new one again. And we have seen what has happened with some high-profile Jamaican politicians who have had their visas, visa applications now refused.
Yes.
And they have not given a reason as to why they have refused those visas, and they're not they're not obligated to give a reason.
Not even on a diplomatic level, they're obligated to give a reasons why. So that if what you say, if what you're saying is going to come into effect now, and I understand that that the U.S. now is on an alert basis. If that comes into effect now, a lot of people are going to be affected because if they ask them the question and they said no. And then they discovered that
later on,
that is yes, they will not be able to get a visa.
Ineligible, yeah.
They're not be eligible.
The other one had to do. We talk about investments in the Cayman Islands by Jamaican companies, and there's no question whatsoever. The economic climate, the very positive economic climate, favorable economic climate in the Cayman Islands these days are making investment in the Cayman Islands so attractive. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. We're going to look at the case of Guyana. December, I think it was the 10th of December, the 20th of December was when they started to actually
pump oil.
Pump oil.
Yes.
A huge financial windfall for Guyana, even though many critics have said that they were taken advantage of by Exxon and all of the Exxon partners in relation to that deal. But be that as it may, still a huge windfall for Guyana. Whether or not that will end up with the people of Guyana is another story as well, because I saw another story the other day about the Nigeria, in the case of Nigeria, and how so much money has been made by oil in Nigeria, but only 1%.
1% went back to Nigeria. And I noticed that the first sale of the oil, the Guyana has given it a company in Barbados to initiate the sale for them.
Yes. I think we have a caller. So let's grab the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, gentlemen. Kenneth Bryan here. Happy New Year, Dr. Marcio.
Good morning, Mr. Bryan.
Some interesting points that you revealed here this morning on the show about the immigration matters in respect to police records.
Yes.
I think Dr. Marcio said it right, that we have a serious problem on our hands, because it makes it even more relevant today that we have to re-examine what we give people police records for in the first place. Yes. Because the expungement part of it is not going to help those who may be sick of some sort and need to get to the U.S. for medical care, which is probably the number one thing that people worry about, having a police record and not being able to get the necessary health care that they need. Mm-hmm. But is this information that reveals to us now an opportunity for us to say, listen, should we actually decriminalize situations like marijuana rather than giving them a record in the first place and then using another law to say we're going to expunge it, because the U.S. authorities will say, I still want to know about that, and use it as a way to deny a visa. And like you heard from Mr. McKeever and Cayman Brac, maybe it's time now for us to start considering, obviously, like what other jurisdictions do, smaller personal usage, not to be a criminal offense, but more like a ticketable offense, quite like what we do with traffic. Because these things actually affect people's lives bigger than we actually know. So today's discussion is good. I think it's important that we as legislators, I'm going to actually start to consider now some questions to Parliament and potentially a motion in light of this new information, because I didn't even know that myself, that this changes the narrative of how it will affect Caymanians on a regular basis with their police records, because it is difficult in a small jurisdiction like Cayman that you make a mistake, it haunts you forever. And this goes even further than that now. So I'm glad for the discussion. I'm glad that you guys brought it up. And Dr. Maxfield, I'll be calling you after the show so we can have a little discussion on some guidance for that, okay? God bless.
Thank
you. Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year to you. And as a legislator, I think you have a duty now to make this relevant, because it doesn't make sense to criminalize someone who is committing offense against themselves, really, unless you can prove that it was under the influence of drugs or something, that the guy committed another offense like burglary or rape or something like that. But for the personal use of marijuana, I don't see why that should still be on the criminal list. It should, there's time now to walk in step with the rest of the world where that is concerned, and to take that off the criminal list, as far as using it for your own use, and not put people to this position where they can't travel at all now. Because if the Americans are going to insist that you have to say yes, even though when your country says that you legally you can say no, this is going to put lots of hundreds of Caymanians into a position, and this is going to cause chaos, really. So Kenneth, you have your New Year work cut out for you, and we do not want to see you fail, and that is the reason why we have to support you and to help you to come through this era.
Okay.
Well, I thank you so much, Doc, and I'll say this. I think it's something that many legislators I've heard actually talk about, that they'd be willing to support. Sorry about the rooster in the background. I'm just at home.
Yes.
But because of fear of political ramifications, we're afraid to tackle this issue, because we know it's drug related. And any politician who brings up the discussion about supporting something such as this, they think there's political backlash, and voters may go, "Oh, you're supporting drug related matters." But I think if proper marketing and proper examination of the information and education about the seriousness of how much more it affects you outside of the personal damage you do to yourself, that people will better understand. And I think I have to do better education campaigns so people can understand this is not about supporting somebody, sitting down smoking weed all day. This is about making sure that Caymanians don't lose opportunities for their own health or their own well-being, even if they make a mistake in that respect. So we'll talk some more, Dr. Maxfield, and I mean, I'm one of those ones that I'm not afraid to talk about the hard, difficult topics. So I guess it has to be me. It will be me, and so be it.
Thank you
very much,
Mr.
Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Brian. Yes.
Okay, from the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Kingston Properties Limited, known by the acronym KPREIT, acquisition in the Cayman Islands. Kingston Properties Limited has advised that the company has just completed the acquisition of 8 fully tenanted warehouse unit in the Rosedale Warehouse Complex located in the industrial belt of the Cayman Islands. The purchase was for a consideration of CI $1.6 million. That would be the equivalent of $2 million US,
yes.
Using the conversion rate. The property maintains a solid tenant base comprised of companies engaged in the construction and distribution industries. This acquisition, this is a quote now, this acquisition represents Kingston Properties' second acquisition in the Cayman Islands, an economy projected to grow between 3 to 4% annually for the next 2 years, and is part of our strategy to continue to broaden our geographic reach, as well as diversify the mix of property types in our portfolio. And that's a statement from the representatives of Kingston properties. So, Caymanians, Cayman, if you thought that the threat came only from the granting of Caymanian status and the granting of permanent residence, you are so wrong. We have to wake up. We have to recognize the Cayman Islands, a limited land mass. You continue to sell and sell and sell the properties that you have to these huge businesses, to these business conglomerates in the Cayman Islands. I urge you, buy property. Retain what you have. Do not sell it, because if you're not only going to lose control in one aspect of your life, but you're likely to lose all control if you do not respond quickly and wisely as well. With that, we'll take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Country classics.
Well, I was born to coal miner's daughter.
On the road again. They're gonna put me in the movies.
Papa Top again.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso.
Because you're mine, I walk the line.
Well, I love them in
country classics.
Young love, first love.
You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. If you enjoy classic country music, come hang out with Radio Cayman this Saturday, 3:30 to 6 p.m.
In the Mississippi cotton picking Delta town.
This Saturday afternoon, following American Country Countdown, 3:30 to 6 on Radio Cayman.
Just walk on by. Wait on the corner.
Country classics.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve Macfield, one caller and whole caller. Good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Happy New Year to you.
Good morning, O.C., and Happy New Year to you too.
Good morning, sir.
I might be off the subject a little, but I thought it was relevant enough that I could call.
Certainly.
Can you tell me if there's any limit on what any one particular person can own in the Cayman Islands, dollar-wise?
No, sir. No limit.
No limit?
No limit. They can buy if they have the money, and they not only no limit, but they can buy anything once. Even companies, if you have a company and they want the company, and they can contact your shareholder, the majority of shareholders, and they can offer them it's what the Godfather says, make them an offer he can't refuse. They can make an offer they can't refuse, and they sell out, and nothing you can do about it. There's nothing that you can do about it. There's no there's no law in the Cayman Islands like in America that prevents people from owning everything.
I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you, Dr. Macfield, but good morning and Happy New Year to you as well.
Okay, that's okay, Tommy. That's all right.
I do feel that it is time that we have some limit put on it, regardless of if you're a Caymanian or not, because I think it is very dangerous for any one entity to own too much real estate or whatever value in the country. And I think the government should look at that to consider some limit in some form or another. So if we don't have it, I think we need to have it.
I think, and Mr. Tommy, I must say that with the environment that we have now, where the Cayman Islands are becoming more and more attractive because of the vibrant economy that we have here in the Cayman Islands, that it is something that we need to look at carefully. I know that governments are extremely reluctant to discourage investment from the outside, but I do believe that we have enough Caymanians in the Cayman Islands with the financial wherewithal, where we don't really need to rely on that investment from the outside any longer.
I agree, and I also feel that it is not necessary to grant such generous concessions to incoming businesses, because we need to put the brakes on some of these. I think now we do need, and from years ago I've been saying this, we need a development plan, not just a planning, development of land plan.
Physical,
we need an economic development plan. And I know we cannot control it 100%, but we can also put some guidances in, some directives in that could control to a certain extent, at least at the pace that we're going. We're going at a crazy pace right now, and I still consider myself an endangered species here, and it's not too many of us left here now as well. For us to have more work permits than our population is crazy.
8,000 more within the next year, they said. 10,000 more, Tommy. 10,000 more. 10,000 more. You think about that, Tommy. You think about that very seriously.
But it's not good for the country. And I agree, we need to start looking at curbing the pace of development in this country, because we're going to be so overcome. See what's happening to Arabus?
Yes.
Yes. That's only a small example of what's happening, and a lot of them probably are in the same position, just too embarrassed to close, because I doubt many of them are making any profit in a lot of the businesses that are here now. And it is because we're being taken over by too much foreign, if I have to say, foreign control, and that's not good for our country. I am not saying that we should stop development, but we need to have some control as far as the pace or speed that we're going at now, because it's going to be very detrimental when we get especially when we get all these developments completed and have no staff to staff them. Then they have the ability to say, look, we have to have the staff to get our businesses going. And it should start before you get the foundation built.
Tommy, one thing Mr. Vassell Johnson, the late Sir Vassell Johnson, said, that if we are going to have Cayman as a fully developed country, that we should at least own and control at least the majority of the development in it. For instance, Tommy, we are going to have all of these people coming now. 10,000 more work permits. Who do you think is going to own the apartments where they're going to live? You think it's going to be Caymanians owning the apartments where they're going to live? You think it's going to be the same people who are bringing them in owning the apartments where they're going to live? And it's a revolt, and we will never be able to benefit substantially from the development that we're providing, the venue that we're providing to have the development. We're not going to be benefiting from it. It is not.
Years ago, people built a little duplex so they could rent half of their property and live in the other half, and have enough to supplement their income to pay a mortgage, and they would eventually own their property over a number of years. Nowadays, that seems to have been going by the wayside.
Yes.
Everybody, Caymanians that used to own their houses years ago, especially if we go back to when the seamen were building their houses, it took them maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years sometimes to build their properties, but when they got through with it was theirs. The bank didn't own a penny in it. Nowadays, most Caymanians are staying in rental properties, and it's useless, it's uneconomic, and it's senseless at the pace we're going at now.
Yes, and what the solution, Tom, it seems to me, is that we're taking the work permit money, taking the work permit price, taking the work permit costs, and giving it and keeping it, and giving the Caymanians, giving the Caymanians the $600 and $800 or $1000 a month, and paying their rent to appease them because they're not working. And like I say, Tommy, you cannot have a country where your people are not producing. You have to have them producing, Tommy, because that's very dangerous when your people are not producing. And that is a wrong thing to do, because all you're going to get is poverty areas. And you know what poverty brings in country? You travel, Tommy. You've been to other countries. You see what happened in other countries with our neighbors too. You see what happens. What happens there?
We have our share of it now too. Don't worry.
Yes.
Yep. Mr. Tommy, I want to thank you very much. We have a few other callers queued up as well, and I have one WhatsApp message that I've received here that I want to share as well. It says, "Good morning, Mr. Connor and Dr. MacPhail, and people of the Cayman Islands. I have noticed that there is some construction going on in Hero Square, making a partial wall around the individual memorial statues. This blocks off the view, and I think it's a big mistake. The open concept is much more attractive. On Heroes Day, the ability to view them all will certainly be diminished. I certainly hope this is not part of the revitalization of Georgetown, as there are going to be they are going in the wrong direction with this project." My thoughts on that. So the person has concerns. If anyone is listening in relation and aware of what's taking place at Hero Square, please let us know as well. We have 3 callers, and we have about 15-20 minutes left in the show. So we're going to ask each caller to be aware of the fact that there's someone behind you waiting to speak as well. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm extremely thankful, and you?
Fine, thanks.
And good morning, Mr. Steve.
Good morning, sir.
And how are you, sir?
I'm fine.
Good, man. Okay. My name is James Sterling Banks III, better known as Jimmy.
Okay.
Let me wish both of you and yours a happy, healthy, prosperous, and spiritual new year.
And the same to you.
And same to you too, and your family.
Thank you, sir. Okay, now, this is 2020, so your vision better be good.
Yes.
That's how I've been viewing it for years now.
Yes.
I foresee a few things that is going to happen to this island here, these islands, and it needs some protection, and it needs protection now, like NOW, now. The only how you're going to get that protection is to make the laws to suit it. Laws to suit it. There's no laws on the book that suits it. It is going to have to be done compulsory, mandated, or whatever they want to call it. But it needs to be protected by law. Otherwise, it's done.
Yep.
Now,
okay.
How do you go about a local person? How do you come about trying to get a law on the books? Steve, that is your side.
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to persuade your representative
exactly
in the legislature to advocate this on your behalf, and to draft the law, bring it, and to get other legislators in the assembly to support the law so that they can pass the 3 stages of the bill to become law.
That was my 2020 vision of that, but I wanted to be sure.
Okay.
So if the government's not going to do it, then it has to be a private member's bill to bring the law into force, and then he would have to have his scale to be able to persuade the other members that this law is necessary and it should be brought, and it would profoundly benefit the Cayman Islands people, and then they can vote for it in the Legislative Assembly, and it can become law.
Okay, I want to thank that caller for that. I think we can grab one more caller before we go to the break, Ms. Susan. Next caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I know a young woman, 19 years of age, who was hired to work at a hotel. And when she started, she was told by the manager or the supervisor that was overlooking her work not to speak like a Caymanian. And before her probation was finished, they laid her off. This young woman was very disappointed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, Doc, I'll have you make some comments in relation to that, and we still have one caller on hold as well. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Wow, it seems I buy a battery every year.
Oh, for real? You should buy your car battery from Vantman. Their batteries are tough. I have a 3-year warranty on mine.
Oh, I know that trick. I take it back and they charge me a percentage of the price.
Hear me out, bro. Not at Vamp Bobo. You can get a 3-year full warranty, no charge. And if they install it at Vamp, it includes free towing and jumping service. And let me tell you, you will never have to get your hands dirty changing no battery.
Get Motorcraft Max or Plus battery for 20% off when it's installed by the service department at Vamp Motors on Walkers Road. Now that's a deal you can get charged up about. Vamp Motors, keeping you on the road.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We have another one caller on hold, but very quickly I want to give Dr. Macfield an opportunity to respond to the last caller. In some countries, I mean, we see in some countries where the Muslim women wear the hijab and stuff like that, where employers have said to them, you can't wear this, and they have won the right to wear that because it has infringed on their constitutional rights.
That's right. And I want to say to the caller that at one time you could conquer countries by gunboat diplomacy and by all kinds of stuff like that, but today it's not so. There's a different kind of conquest, and one of the kind of conquests that I see, the modern conquest now, is destroying your culture, destroying your language, destroying your religion, destroying your whole way of life, and this is what's happening here, and it is because of the concepts of fake superiority. This fake superiority that people are bringing into the country has to stop, and our lawmakers have to do something about it and have to make it quite clear that this is Cayman and we are Caymanians and we have a right to speak the way we speak. And
the question there would be that young lady, whether or not she just simply took that
She gave up.
Lay off and gave up, and
she gave
whether
up.
or not we have the structures, the institutions in place to address issues like that, some place where she could go and seek redress for that wrong.
But you know how the Jamaicans dealt with that in the early days? Sir Alexander Mastamanti would have gone to the hotel, or Lyndon Pindlin would have gone to the hotel with a ticket and say, here's a ticket out, and don't let the sunset catch you here in the morning. That's the way to deal with that kind of stuff. You put it in the budget immediately, and you send that person right back where they came from. That's how I would deal with it if I was in government.
And it's quite possible that in our case here, that the person who made that decision in relation to her and made that statement probably has more legal rights than she has as well. Let's go to the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Happy New Year to you.
As usual, your program is interesting and informative.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Billy Adams. How are you?
I personally couldn't be better, thankfully. I can't say the same thing for the Cayman Islands, however.
Okay. Yes.
Because they sure have us in a mess. What I'm wanting to talk today about is the way our government is using resources to fight against us and to fight against the Cayman Islands people. Of course, they're going to be using that too, because they're going to train Caymanians, 150 of them, to shoot Caymanians. That's why they're doing that. That isn't for national disasters. That's a trick being played by our colonial masters, and our stupid people can't see what's going to happen. And this is a matter of beaches. From Mr. Orrit, you gave it 1965, there's been problems with people not having traditional access to beaches.
Mm-hmm.
In 2001, approximately 500 affidavits were submitted for claims to be made pursuant to the prescription law where it's been traditionally used 20 years or more. Our government and every one of the governments that have been in, whatever color it is, the purple, the red, or the green, the PPM, UDP, and I even can't remember the name of the purple people.
Or whatever bell that they ring.
Or whatever bell that they ring. Every last one of them, and today, the 19 in my book are guilty of what I'm going to say. They have not fought. They've given the semblance of trying to fight for Caymanians, but they have not really fought. They compromise on too many things. Now, when these affidavits were submitted, governments never responded in writing. And on the 7th, in 2017, 16 years after submission, is when they responded, and they refused to register the right-of-ways that all these different people had submitted. They refused, when it was appealed, to take the next step. So now we're having to take the next step ourselves. This time, and unlike what happened with the theft of the West Bay Road, when all of those court actions had to be done with private funding by individuals who paid a lot of money, and we couldn't appeal it to the Privy Council, and our courts were against that. The merits of that case were never, ever heard because the courts didn't allow the hearing to go forward. In this particular matter now, this is also a similar situation. Will the government allow the case to go forward? I have a lot of fear and trepidation that they will be allowed to go forward, because the government has basically said, the courts, when applied for legal aid, that, in paraphrasing, access to the beaches is not in the public interest in the Cayman Islands. Now, if people really treasure the beaches, treasure access to the seas, treasure access to the North Sound, for what they've traditionally used over the years, their fishing spots and all these things in the three islands, then they need to show the government, leave them without a doubt, those things are important to me. And to the Caymanians that will not get up and come out and be by the courthouse on Thursday morning, 9 o'clock, January the 9th, when this case is coming up. So far, we've asked for a larger courtroom because we know about 20 people want to attend. Up to now, it's just going to be in a judge's room in private. And we hope that we can open it up and that they will allow the people in. So we have seen what has happened with the blockade, the Darts Tunnel, which is actually a foundation for his 80-story hotel that our unity government is promoting and says be a good thing. They've blocked 2 right-of-ways there. Planning allowed it. In front of the Kimpton, 2 vehicular right-of-ways you no longer have vehicular access to. Also north of Tiki Beach, there are 7 right-of-ways that are all vehicular. Dart now, over these last holidays, has a gate which is locked. He has blocks, so you cannot drive to where you used to drive at those right-of-ways. We are getting to where Jamaica is.
Caller, we have one more caller, and also the point that you want to get across is that you want to ask people to come out there and support on the, what date is it? Thursday.
January the 9th.
January 9th. Okay.
Come out for their great-grandchildren.
Okay, excellent.
And when they ask, what did you do? I hope that they will not hang their head in shame and say, I didn't participate. I didn't fight for you.
Precisely. Yep. Okay.
God bless you all.
Thank you very much. We have 2 callers still. We're going to try to squeeze them in very quickly. Says, listening to Dr. Steve, I would repeat, we need antitrust laws. No individual group must monopolize an industry. Cayman Brac is being carried piece by piece as sand and marl to Grand Cayman by barge. Next caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Not only is Cayman Brac being carried piece by barge, in the next 10 to 20 years, the multi-billionaire magnate will develop that island as well. Yes? All right, let me take the time to say good morning to Dr. Steve McField and to you, Mr. Orrit Connor.
Thank you very much.
You both.
Good morning.
Same to you, thanks.
This is Quincy Brown calling. I know you have 6 minutes remaining in the program, so let me be brief, get to the point. I know you have another caller. It's very disheartening when a young Caymanian of 19 years old should apply for a job and is discriminated against because she uses her Caymanian accent. We live in the Cayman Islands, a British territory. We should know how to speak 2 languages fluently. We should know standard English, but also we should be proud to use our Caymanese dialect, Caymanian. But you see, it's all in the vein of trying to eradicate everything Caymanian. Turn on our radio stations. Tune into our radio stations. There are no Caymanian voices. We have no Caymanian TV. We're trying to eradicate all that's traditionally Caymanian to come in with the new system of the modern-day Caymanian. That's how I see it. Now, why I've called this morning is to shed light on a situation. We know many families are being evicted from homes because they can't pay their mortgage, and it's a sad situation. I mean, banks are retaking homes, and the next day someone else moves in as a family has been kicked out because they can't pay. But also there are persons living in apartments. I know NAU needs assessment unit. They're up to their neck with payouts, having to find places for the impoverished, usually Caymanians, indigent Caymanians. But as I traverse the streets of Grand Cayman, as a non-politician, I'm not a politician, but people come to me with their issues, and I do my best to try and help where I can, even if it's to shed light. There is a lady and her child that are facing eviction in a particular district on Grand Cayman, and we cannot let this happen. She's actively trying to find somewhere to go, but where she's staying now, a new owner bought the apartment complex out and has terminated the contract, which was supposed to go to March 2020, and she's been told she needs to leave at the end of this month. I am stepping in. I am shedding light on it. Politicians listening, my number is 924-8446, 924-8446. This is a sickly Caymanian mother with a child. Let us not see her kicked out on the streets, because it can come to that. Because when a landlord say you got to get out, you got to get out. Let us, as a church, as a government, as a community, come together to try and find this lady and her child a place. I've given my number on air.
Yes.
Please call me. If everybody gave $10 or $25, we might can pay her first month rent at a new place, or
Thank
we
you.
can take it forward. Yeah.
Thank you, Quincy, and we hope everyone will support you and they give you a call as well. We're going to squeeze the last caller in. Very short time, 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning, O.C.
Morning. Happy New Year to you.
And same to you and Dr. Steve.
Good morning, sir.
Yes. O.C., I got to be very short.
Okay.
The rest over the last, I would say, 5, 6, 7 years, I noticed that every time that I'm leaving the block, coming down to Grand Cayman, you know that I always come down at least once or twice a month. I just continuously get harassed, take off my shoes. Now, just recently, the last time I've been on Cayman was somewhere the first part of December, I think it was, and also at Christmas. On Christmas, on 24th, I was asked to take off my shoes. Once again, I said, listen, man, my shoes, whether they got in steel or whatever, you really think now that I don't come on a plane with a bomb in my shoes to blow myself up? And anyway, getting back now to this thing now with me. And when I went down to Cayman on that same trip, I was asked by the security down there, now out of 20-something passengers on the plane, I was asked, out of all of them, they have to identify what is my, they have to screen my baggage again. Now, obviously, I find it that if some...
So you feel that you're being targeted personally?
Yes.
Exactly, by some bird-brain politicians or politicians, because of the same thing that I have up here with them, with the overthrow of the land, with the use of our land. And listen, O.C., just listen 1 minute. I made up my mind. I gonna get paid for that if it takes the last penny that I have in my pocket. I gonna get paid for that because I put it that the politicians that we have in Cayman, they only recognize the Constitution whenever it suits them or a member of their party or their gang. Listen, that will be paid.
Okay.
Sooner, much later than later.
Got you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to extend my thanks again to Dr. Steve McFeel for being with me on the show this morning as well. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk Today. Join me on Wednesday when MLA Mr. Ezard Miller will be on the show as well. Have a great day. God bless. Stay safe.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news. Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The Cayman National Weather Service Climate Bulletin shows that a short-term drought is continuing to evolve in Cayman. That means you can expect decreasing shower frequency and intensity. The Weather Service is predicting sunny days with some showers for January and perhaps a wetter dry season than usual through March. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened severe sanctions against Iraq after its parliament called on U.S. troops to leave the country. Tensions are high after the U.S. assassinated Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in Baghdad last week. The 62-year-old spearheaded Iranian military operations in the Middle East and was regarded as a terrorist by the U.S. And a man convicted of 159 sex offenses and said to be Britain's most prolific rapist can be identified for the first time after the end of his latest trial. Reynard Sinango was found guilty of luring 48 men from outside Manchester clubs to his flat, where he drugged and assaulted them, filming the attacks. The judge has now ruled his life sentence must include a minimum of 30 years in jail and lifted reporting restrictions. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman.